Welcome to the Canarian International Meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Mossy and I am an alcoholic.
And my name is Mick and I'm serving as a secretary with Mossy. And we're both alcoholics. Please join us in a moment's silence to remember the still suffering alcoholic inside and outside this meeting. Preamble, Carol.
Good evening, my name is Carol and I'm an alcoholic. The AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is an honest desire to stop drinking. AA has no dues or fees. It is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol, read like a true professional. And a very warm welcome goes out to any newcomers or anyone returning to Alcoholics Anonymous.
The chat is now disabled until the end of the meeting, except for the meeting host. If you feel the meeting security is at risk at any time during the meeting, please private message one of the co-hosts so that they could check it out.
And that's it. Julie has come to my rescue. If she hasn't left the meeting, Julie has come to the rescue to share for us this evening. Julie, you're an absolute star. I'm looking forward to hearing your story. You got about 40 minutes, whatever suits yourself. You just talk as long as you like.
Thanks, Mossy. Hi, everyone. I'm Julie. I'm an alcoholic. We don't read anything now apart from the preamble. Okay.
Oh.
You know, that's how the group works. That's how the group works. I follow what the group does. So I am Julie and I'm an alcoholic. Wow. I got out today. I've been out today to a face-to-face meeting. You know, I've been in the house 9 days, again ill. But anyway, better today until I got up and I got out to the face-to-face meeting. And, you know, God's good. Because straight away, you know, there was a new member in the room. And that answers why I'm there, you know. I'm not there to give big speeches and to tell everyone how much I know and how clever I am. I'm not. I'm just here to share my experience, strength and hope and try and help somebody to get sober. So the girl never ever been to AA before and that was a blessing, you know. So she got a nice message and give her a big book and she left, you know, with phone numbers. Just like I did when I came to AA. And then it was up to me then, what I did. AA had given me everything that I need. AA has got everything that I need to stay sober, but it's up to me. So, you know, going back, you know, Julie, me, I'm from an alcoholic home. Both parents were alcoholics. Mum and dad alcoholics. And to be honest, I never knew my dad, even though we were in the same house. I never knew him. We never really spoke, you know. He worked every day, God bless him. He'd go to the pub every night on the way home from work, and then we'd be in bed when he'd come in. But if he did come in, there'd be murder over the cooking, you know. My mother's chops were tough or something, and there'd be frigging murder, and then all hell would break loose again then. And at this point, even at 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, I've already been to the wine stores, got my mum a cider and a Guinness, and she's on guard now, waiting for him to come in. She's at the window, waiting, obsessed, waiting for him to come in and start. And, you know, I can recollect that from like being 7 years of age, you know. I can remember that from when I was 7, probably even further back. But that's what I know about being in that home and a lot more, you know. And most of what I heard the rows about, you know, the violence and the rows were about money. And my mum kept accusing me dad of having a secretary. He was after his secretary or something. My dad never had a secretary. He just worked in a factory. So, you know, when you think about the mind, the alcoholic, the thinking and all the rest of it, you know, she just was so far from the truth. But, you know, we're all insecure. So I had an obsession with drink from a very, very early age, even though I hadn't started drinking. I was obsessed with drink from 5. I knew what drink was going to do, and I hated the stuff, and I was never going to drink. So from that age right up to when I took a drink, you know, I became over responsible in the home, you know, controlling, you know, telling everyone what to do. But it worked in that environment because they all needed something, you know, they needed like a strong person. And I was strong. I was strong, but there's no way I'm not strong enough to stop anyone drinking, and I can't do nothing about a drink problem. I know that. But I could go and pay the bills, and I could light the fire every night to come home from school. You know, I could do all that. I go to the wine stores, you know, and I don't know, the things I tried, you know, to get a relationship with my mum, you know, which I never had. I never had a relationship with my mum. My mum was obsessed with my dad and with drinking. She didn't know, she wasn't there, you know. God help her, she wasn't present. Just like I became not present either, you know. But we don't know it then, you know. We don't know. Yeah, and you know, the violence and that. I mean, there's a couple of times I saw my mum come through glass windows, you know, smashed to bits, kicked like a pulp up and down the entry. It was awful. I think I was 10 or 11 then. I had a younger brother and sister, you know, and I brought them up. I did. I brought them up. I took them to school and I looked after them. I had the key to the house. All responsibilities, you know, 10 or 11-year-old doesn't usually have. They're usually playing out. I wasn't playing out. I couldn't play out. I was too worried and obsessed about what was going to go on in the house. You know, I projected fear. I projected fear within myself all the time. Projected trouble, even if there wasn't trouble. You know, believed there was going to be trouble. I was on edge. I was living on edge. Anxiety was through the roof. I got to the doctors when I was 12. He wanted to see me. The school got in touch with my mum and dad because I wasn't concentrating in school. I wasn't in school. I wasn't present. And you're not present where you are if you've got an obsession with something else. You can't be, you know. And that's the mental stuff in my mind, you know. So he gave me some, what was he then? Valiums, were he? He gave me some Valiums and he gave me some Mogadons to help me sleep, the doctor. Because that's what he used to give me mum. So I'd go down, I'd get the same, you know. But they didn't do anything for me, you know. They didn't do anything about up here, you know. We don't know then. I don't know then, you know. But I never spoke to anyone. I never told anyone about anything because I had this loyalty, you know. Alcoholic children are deep in loyalty. They won't blow anyone up. They won't tell on anyone, you know. And that, you know, it was just like that, and it was a bit worse than that too, you know, ambulances to the house and all the rest of it. And I had resentments. I had terrible resentments, and I hated my mother, you know. I hated her sending me to that wine stores with Guinness bottles rattling in this bag that was tied up at the handles with string, and she used to wrap them up in newspaper. Oh, I say, Mum, I'm not going. I'm not carrying that bag up the road. Oh, go on, look. And then she told me and I go, you know. Because I thought if I do that, like I did with my mum and everything, if I do that, she'll speak to me. You know, my mother never spoke to me. She went months not speaking to me. Never spoke to me. You know, it was awful, really. You know, I was either, I didn't speak well enough. I didn't walk tall enough. You know, there was something wrong with me. Or I didn't speak well enough, you know. There was something, I was an old book, she used to call me. You know, just... And, you know, later on, yeah, we understand she just venting her pain onto me, you know, as we do, alcoholics. Once we become alcoholic and we understand the illness and how it can be, we start to understand her a little bit. But when you're not in it and you don't understand, it's a nightmare. It's a fucking nightmare. So I took a drink when I was 14. As soon as I took that drink, I was off. But, you know, I will say before this as well, you know, when you're not, haven't got an emotional stability and you're not feeling like you belong anywhere anyway, the self-centered alcoholic as well, you know. I was also stealing, you know. I was stealing from about 7 years of age out the shops, taking comfort from that. When I was like 12 or 13, I started having boys in the entry in our house. because I was getting comfort out of that. You know, wherever I felt that I was getting a bit of comfort or a bit of security, that's where to go. And it was absolutely against all my morals. It was against everything that I believed in, the things that I did. But I was that insecure, and I was so desperate to be loved, wanted and needed, that I'd do anything. So sex was a problem to me, you know. I had a sex problem when I was 13 years of age, because I'd come out and find me in the entry with these lads from school, you know. And I had no respect for either of them, you know. I had no respect for my mum or my dad, because they both told lies, and the way it all was, you know, that I would deface them, you know. I'd call him a liar. I mean, he wasn't lying about that. He was told that it was the truth what he was saying. But I'd say, no, he's a liar. I never, you know. So everyone was a liar bar me, you know. So the predisposition to alcoholism and the traits of the alcoholic I already had, they were already there, you know. So the defects were already, they'd already been woke up, you know. And the pride, that bag is the pride, you know, that bag of bottles, you know, the pride. The fear, unknown, ungrounded, unfounded fear, full of it, you know, that was another trait of the alcoholic. So that was going on as well, you know. I became manipulative. I was also manipulative, you know. I knew how to get my own way. I knew how to get what I wanted. I used to do Mrs. Seddon's messages up the road, and she'd send me up with the list, and I'd get a shop, and I'd come back. And I found out that if I forgot something, she'd send me back and she'd pay me again. So I'd forget something, not accidentally. I'd forget it on purpose to get more money off her. You know, so I was going against anything, any God-given thing that was in me, you know, because of how I felt, because I was full of resentment. And that's what resentments do. They kill us. They self-destruct. I go on self-destruct with resentment. I destruct myself, which is what I was doing. But, you know, when I started to drink at 14, none of this changed. I didn't stop stealing. I didn't stop lying. I didn't stop manipulating. I didn't stop controlling. I didn't stop doing any of the things that I was doing when I started drinking. In fact, the drink gave me a license now to do it freely without anyone knowing, you know. But everything I did, someone knew. I always got found out, you know. But that was another thing I was living with. Even growing up, I was living with a deep, deep fear of being found out, because I hated getting found out. I couldn't be found out, because I'd deny what I'd done if I got found out, because I couldn't face it. I had nothing within me to help me face any wrongs that I'd done. There was nothing in me. I had no self-esteem. I had no self-worth. You know, so all you do is deny what's happening and deny what's going on. So I left home about just on 15. I'd left school. And within the first year, the alcoholic, within the first year of leaving school, I'd had 3 jobs, you know. I was on the run. I was totally unsettled. I didn't know what I was doing or where I was going. I was just acting on those feelings that I had as a child. I just wanted to get off. I just wanted to get away. So I'd be running away, you know. Them 3 jobs that I had. Now, the third one I had was working in John Moore's, the clothing place in the Embert Lane in Crosby, by where I used to live. And that's when I started to drink at dinner times. I was like 15 and a half, and I was working in there then. I was just on 16, because I'd been away from school now for a year. And I'd got a flat as well, 15 and a half. I got out this house and I got a flat. And I was taking my younger brother and sister with me. But they changed their minds and they didn't want to come. So I went there on my own. Great big house, with big houses with great big flats in them. The walls were like 20 foot tall, and it was freezing, you know. And I was there just 15 and a half. I was working in John Moore's, and I was going for the dinner time drink, and I wasn't going back to work. So I was drinking on a daily basis from 15 and a half years of age. Oh yeah, I drank lager, you know. I drank lager or cider or wine. Well, mostly I got the lager. You know, and that was my life straight ahead after that. So 16 years of age, I'm locked up for drunken disorderly, and I'm locked up for shoplifting because I got caught. And I haven't gone home in this time. I haven't gone back to the family home in this time. So I haven't seen my mum and dad, and I haven't seen my younger brother and sister. I was totally cut off from them somewhere else. I wasn't there anymore. I wasn't there in my mind either. My mind was where I was, if you get what I'm saying. I'm sure you do. In the drinking. You know, my mind now was in the drink and what was going on in my life in the drink. My mind wasn't back there now where I'd left it. And that's what I continued doing. 16 and 17, I was already in trouble with the drink, you know. I'm in trouble with the police. I'm going to town, and you know, come home, you forget, you lose your bag, you lose a shoe, you know, and you can't get in. And I've got this flat, you know, living in this flat, this horrible big flat, you know. So I wasn't happy at all, you know, really not good at all. This first suicide attempt was when I was 17. Tried to kill me. I overdosed, tried to take a load of tablets and kill myself. But that just made me sick. I came okay, just made me sick. But I know now when you look back with your sponsor in the programme, I know I was clinically depressed, but I was drinking. And there's no chemical, no tablet is going to touch an alcoholic who's drinking like me. It doesn't work. The only time them will work is if you stop drinking. Well, I couldn't stop drinking because drink was my solution. I was drinking because it solved my problems. It helped me forget about my problems. But now, you know, all I know now, what it was doing was just making me problems 10 times worse. So, you know, the guilt and the remorse and all the rest of it that goes along with it, you know. So my sister had gotten married. She got a house. She had a house and she has got boys, 3 sons now. She got married. Eddie had gone away to sea, the younger brother, he'd gone away to sea. So we're all estranged, you know, we're estranged. We're not seeing each other. So, you know, you can live in a house with 10 people and not belong with any of them, you know. So even at that point, 17, 18, there was no security. I had no security. I couldn't even bring any security for myself because I just drank with my money. So I never paid any bills. I never paid the man rent for this flat that I got. And I stole the electric money out the meter that I was putting in. I was stealing that, putting it in, stealing it back, you know, with an attitude of F them, you know. I don't give a shit, F them. That was my attitude. And if anyone ever spoke to me about drink, I'd just say, well, F you, you're not paying for it, are you? F you, you know. That was my attitude. So, you know, into the jobs, I don't know how many jobs I had millions of jobs. By the time I was 23, I'd lived all around Liverpool. After this 23, I ended up going to Germany. I went to London. I went to Birmingham. I lived all over the place to get away from me, you know, to get away from all what was wrong, all the problems, get away from them, not knowing that I'm taking my problems with me. Wherever I go, Julie goes too, you know. And inevitably, I always pick up a drink because I can't stand myself without a drink. I can't socialise. I can't talk to people. I don't know what to do without a drink. So I've got to drink. You know, I think 15 when I had the first drinks, you know, I wanted to drink then because it would help making me feel a bit better, you know, anxiety and fear. And then from wanting to drink, I needed to drink after that. I needed to drink because of the way that I was living. And then I had to drink because of the compulsion and the obsession in the end. I had no choice. I've got to drink. Didn't have no choice. So I reckon by the time that getting to 23, you know, I'd met Frank and I'd married him, the bread man. Oh my God. I married him, you know, and I lived here where I am now in Old Swan, Liverpool at the time. Moved in with his mother. But he was just the same as me, you know. He had nothing either. His bank was empty. All he knew was violence. All he knew was what I knew. So there's the two of us together trying to have a relationship. I've got no chance. No chance, because drink is affecting him the way drink's affecting me. So all we ever did was fight and batter each other, you know. And I talk about women, domestic violence and all the rest of it, you know. Well, fine, yeah, it's true. But, you know, as an alcoholic, and I started to have to look at this program years later, you know, I found that, you know, what's that saying about the patience of a saint? I could tear the patience of a saint, you know. And also, you know, I'm not saying that what he did was right, you know, but I carried on behind his back. I've shared that a couple of times on here, I think. And I got caught, you know, got found out. He wouldn't come to this party this Friday night with me, this 21st in Plessy's. Julie, I've got to work over weekend, you know, and I'm selfish, you know, I'm selfish. You can't even take one night off. Whoa. Anyway, I went myself, and I rang this taxi and went myself. And when he came back early hours of the morning, he's not home because he works all night taxiing. So when he comes in, only everything he says to me now these days now is, you stink a drink, you stink a drink. You know, I drank every night, and I drank most every day too. And then he had his work night off at the beginning of the week on a Monday. He could have Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday off. So he had his night off from work. So we're ready to go out. You know, the alcoholic's thinking everything's fine. And, you know, the fella comes for us in the taxi. I get in the back of the taxi. He says to me, "Hey, love, didn't I come here last Friday?" Straight away, the alcoholic pours out, "No, me, you never came here last Friday. I don't know. Yeah. He did. He came and took me to that Jane's party. But Frank didn't know I was going, where Frank wouldn't come. So that we're not even out yet, and we haven't started drinking yet. So I can see his face, and you can see what the next thing's going to happen, you know. And it did happen. There was fucking murder. Police were called that night when we got home, with the fighting and the violence. They smashed the windows. You know, what a life, drinking. That's what my life contained all the time I drank. There was no social drinking for me. Never drank socially. I started, when I had drink, I went out to socialise. I'd go out after I've drunk. I don't get ready and sober and go out. No, none of that. I have to have a drink first. You know, bottle of something or something first before I go anywhere or do anything. You know, so I never socialised with drink. I used drink because it solved my problems. It was a solution to what was wrong with me. And then within 2 years, me and him got divorced, you know. But I'd been with 3 fellas while I was with him, you know. So I used to think when I'd had a good hiding, when he found out, oh, it'll be all right now. He'd give me a good hiding, so it'll be okay. But, you know, he's an alcoholic too. And I know he's an alcoholic because he can't let go either. So we can't let go of what I've done. So it's over and over again, you know, talking about the same stuff over and over again, what I'd done, you know, on a few times. But I divorced him for his unreasonable behaviour. And I think that's a fucking joke now, you know. I've thought that's been a joke for years while I've been sober, that I divorced him, you know. But anyway, I did. And then I had another few relationships after that. It was always the same. It was always from the same thing, you know, from drinking, going out, getting drunk, meeting somebody, loads of one-night stands, a couple of long-time relationships after that. But I was never steady or stable enough to have a relationship with anyone. And then while I was married to Frank, you know, we found out that I couldn't have children. And I tried, you know, tried hard to do that. And I really wanted children. I think for 8 years I was in a bad mental place because of that, but I couldn't have children. But the blessing now, you know, as people have said, you know, Julie, you would have dragged them with you. They'd have got dragged along with me, you know. So thank God. Thank God I saved a few little lives from coming along with me, you know. Because I would still be alcoholic. No, every chance I would have still been alcoholic whether I'd had children or not. So much later on, you know, I'm still drinking. And by this time, my dad's died. You know, my dad dropped dead when I was 23, just before I got married. He dropped dead with a heart attack. Dropped dead in front of me in my mother's house. I'd gone to my mother's house, and my dad just dropped dead. You know, massive heart attack. And, you know, I remember them coming, you know, they leave you there for hours, and they come and they stuck him in this black bag. And I watched him go past the kitchen window, you know, on this stretcher in this black bag. It was horrible. It was a horrible feeling. And 2 weeks later, it was arranged. We got married. So, you know, my Uncle George, my dad's brother, you know, said to me in the car, he said, "Julie, you know, are you okay? Do you want to go through with this?" You know, I said, "Of course, I know what I'm doing." You know what I mean? I always, of course, I know what I'm doing, you know. Didn't know what I was doing at all. But there was no trust with anyone, you see. I had no trust. There was a lot of appropriate, just misappropriate behaviour with me dad too, you know. There really was. And my elder brother was a real bully, you know. I had an elder brother as well. God, he bullied and battered the life out of me. But he's in that environment where I am. So we've got 4 kids in that environment growing up. And they're all going to end up different. And we did. We all ended up different person. They're not alcoholics. I'm the only alcoholic. Eddie did have a gambling thing. Oh, Georgina was all right. And so was my elder brother, John. You know, so out of all that mess, there's got to come something. But then, you know, John was killed when I was 20. I was just going on for my 21st birthday and John was killed. He was killed in his police car. He hit black ice and crashed into a lamppost on the Rice Loom flyover here in Liverpool and Walton. So that has happened as well just before I was 23 and got married, that John was killed. So straight away I went to autopilot and I went home. And I couldn't get in the house. My mum and dad were screaming the house down. I couldn't get in. It was awful. In the end, my dad did open the door and I went in, you know. And I tried, you know, I tried to, you know, make them happy, you know, I tried to cheer them up. And because that's what I'm kind of like as well, you know. But that got killed off with all the drink and all the trouble. But that's a thing that's in, there's lots of stuff that's in me that's good, you know. But it never came out because the alcohol robbed me of it all. Because that's the way it was. So I did that and I went home, but they just drank worse, you know. The drink got worse for them. And as I say, then it was only 2 years. My dad dropped dead. Then my mum's left on her own drinking. Then my mum's alcoholic. She's left on her own drinking. Well, I'm drinking with my mum now as well, you know. And all that frustration and intolerance and everything that I felt towards my mum come out in me and drink, you know. So I was abusive verbally with her. I remember I threw a drink in her face one night in the pub, half a lager, because I couldn't stand being there with her. And I pushed her off a stool, you know, with all the frustration and everything that was inside of me. So, you know, I really hurt. I started to hurt others, hurt people. But I didn't understand, just lashing out, you know, I'm just lashing out. Didn't know why, just lashing out on everyone. So we fell out for a while and she used to tell me I drank too much, I needed to stop drinking. Just drink half instead of getting 2 halves instead of a pint, you know. But no one could control my drinking and no one could stop me. No one on God's earth could do it. And it continued. So John and Dad have died, and then I'm with my mum drinking now, and I'm divorced from Frank, and I'm with Dougie now, a fella called Dougie in Walton, and I'm with him now in his house. Oh, and he was a good man, and he was okay. He wasn't alcoholic, but he couldn't put up with me. You know, he couldn't put up with me. I was still craving. I had that craving for something, you know. Of course, alcohol, but I wanted something, and I didn't know it was a normal life. I didn't know it was just to be normal, like the girl next door. You know, I didn't know that. That is what I wanted. But you know, I've got this illness, and it's going against me all the time. So I've carried on now, and I've gone to Germany now to try and change my life, live my life. I went with a carrier bag with a few bits in it. And I got there and I started drinking the Weiss beer. And that led to getting locked up by the police. And I ended up in prison over there. They put me in for a month. And they took my passport off me. Well, you know, they didn't because they couldn't find it. I wouldn't tell them where it was. But I managed to get home after that. They deported me. And I came home. I was full of blood because the police had battered me. And I'd laid into them. So I had a broken leg. I had a fractured skull. And I get back home from there, from Germany, on a train through the British consulate in that state. So I had a plaster of Paris from me like ankle to my hip because of the way to take my knee was. And my head was all bandaged up. And they all thought, see, the alcoholic, they all thought it had a skiing accident. I mean, fucking that's a laugh now, isn't it? Honest to God. I told my sister in a letter I've had a skiing accident. So I've hurt my head and I broke my leg. No one knew the truth, you know. I couldn't tell anyone the truth. Couldn't tell them the truth. So I got back here. It took a year to get my leg right. And then we're taking x-rays in my head, sort that out, get that. Well, no one got that right. They got the crack right, but they didn't get in there and get it right. You know what I mean? No other ending can do that. So I'm back here again now, you know, just done in with it all, you know, absolutely done in with everything, fed up with everything, no life. What am I doing? So I start again. I come back and I start again. And I drink again. Of course I do, because I don't know how not to drink. Drink, as I say, is my answer. So I've got an hour flat, you know, and I'm drinking again, and I'm going on the ships at the docks with the fellas. I'm going on ships with these fellas. I'm going in these clubs on the dock road, and I'm getting money for set and all this, selling me bot and everything, doing all that. And I swear to God, you know, getting to AA, and I thought, I'm never ever going to tell anyone. You know, I swore I could never ever tell anyone any of this. God, I've just seen the time. I better go, better move. So that was life, you know, comprehensible demoralization and all that. I know all that. I know about it, you know. And then after that, I was still getting locked up. Got locked up again another couple of times. I was in style prison for 6 months for offences that I was committed. You know, so I've been everywhere and everything. I paid the price for drink, you know. I paid a big price for drink. So the last 3 months of me drinking, I've gone again. The last 3 months of me drinking, you know, in 1988. The 3 months, it seemed to just go rough downhill worse, you know. So anyway, someone who I was drinking with happened to be working for an AA member in her house. She was cleaning a house. So the AA member then told me, she thinks I've got a drink problem, June. She's giving me this. And you know what it was? It was a Who Me pack. Right? Wow, a Who Me pack. So she stuck it on her coffee table, and I picked it up. Picked it up, and I opened it up, and I started. And they answered all these questions, sports questions. I ticked them all, and I thought it was dead clever. I said, "Oh, frick, I must be an alcoholic. That's me thinking the way I was." So as soon as I'd had that pack for the next 3 months, Jesus, the repercussions in my life, what had gone on for years, just threw at me in 3 months. And I got up on this Monday morning off the couch in 4 Acre Drive where I was living. I was half dressed again. There was Chinese food all over the house, all over the floor. The telly had gone again. My money had gone. The ciggies had gone. I'd been robbed again. The house was robbed. I come to on this couch and I thought, oh, here we go again, you know. What's happened this time? And I tried to think and I can't remember. And of course, because I'm in blackouts. I was always in a blackout. So I can't remember. But vaguely came to my mind a taxi driver. This taxi driver come into my mind. God knows who he was or whatever. Anyway, I had to let it go. I had to leave it. But that morning, I had £1 left. That morning, I went to, I picked up the phone and I rang AA. Something came into my mind to ring AA. Now, it was a God-given moment. It really was, because of me reading that pack. It wasn't my idea. I had no intentions of ringing AA. I had no intentions of stopping drinking. Absolutely none. Wasn't even in my mind. I rang AA and TV Frank answered the phone, you know, and he's talking to me, and then he got Dorothy to phone me. I was on a Monday, so come the Wednesday, I went to the meeting with Dorothy. But what I just want to emphasise here is, as we all know, and as I've heard people share on this meeting, you know, that mental twist in the mind of the alcoholic that we've got to look out for all the time. 1 minute you're doomed on the floor in a fucking heap, and the next minute you think you're okay. You know, well, that was me on that Monday morning. I was in bits when I spoke to Frank on the phone, but as soon as I put the phone down, I said, "Oh, I'm all right. I don't need that." You know, wow. I don't want to ever forget that thought, that thinking, how I was at that particular time, because it tells me, you know, about a soundness of mind, of the alcoholic insanity, you know, how I can be one thing 1 minute and something else the next. So I got to this meeting on the Wednesday and I never went back. Never went back for 6 months, and I didn't drink. So I went straight into being a dry drunk for 6 months. And in that 6 months, nothing changed. I went to work, I got a job. I was working 17 hours a day, but nothing in me changed, and nothing externally changed either. I was robbing the till every night, taking 20 quid justifying it with Bensons and Edges and taxis there and back. Oh, they've got the effing money, F them. This is the truth. This is my attitude. This is how I was. I'm taking the money. And then I've got to fix the till then, right? And that I can get it right, because when the manageress comes in and does it at the end of the night, and by God, I got it right, got it right, except for the 20 quid what I'd robbed. I was taking the food out the freezers, taking that home. I had the girls round the bend in the restaurant because I was doing all their work. They all walked out, So this was dry drunk, this in 6 months, so nothing changed. And there was a couple of men in that time too. So at the end of the 6 months, the alcoholic reaches a point where she can't live with constant fear and tension any longer, and she's got to have a drink. So when someone said to me, did I want half a lager? I said no at first. And then I said, then he asked me again. I said, all right, then I'll just have half. So I had half a lager. And that half a lager led to a stay behind in this pub place where I was working. I had the keys and everything. There was a stay behind. The place got robbed and everything. And I come to the next morning, and the manager had phoned me up and said, Julie, what happened? And I said, what do you mean, what happened? Nothing happened. He said, oh, it did happen. He said, it did. Blah, 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 blah. You're sacked. We don't want you to come back. So I said, oh, is that right? So you owe me a week in hand pay and you owe me holiday pay. I had 4 social security books. I was frauding everybody. You know what I mean? The way I was living, honest to God. So I demanded money off them. I got a week's pay. They did give it to me. So then I locked myself away then for 8 months. I was in the house drinking for 8 months, scurrying up and down entries, frightened to go out to pubs and clubs now, terrified to go out, terrified in my own mind because my mind had gone. I was terrified. And I'm scurrying up and down entries, and I'm getting drinks, and I'm scurrying back, and I'm borrowing money, and everything. And then the 10th of January was 1990. I'd come to the end, right through Christmas, New Year. I come to the end. A couple of AA members were still in touch with me, and that's something I do now. I don't let people go that easy. I try and hang on to them, because I know how bad it can be. I really do. So I hung on to these guys. I think this. I was. I'd come back in, the phoning me. Doris said, Julie, thought about coming. Anyway, after she'd said that, I had a few cans of lager on the table, and I looked at the cans of lager and I thought, I can't take any more. And I really knew that I couldn't. I was finished. I didn't even know what I was doing. I absolutely never. And anyone here would tell you, I just didn't know what I was doing. So I came back into AA on the 11th of January 1990. I've never taken or needed a drink since. And when I come back in, I had a letter for the psychiatrist. I've already seen them. So I said to little Harry, who died, my sobriety, Harry, what do you reckon about this? You keep an open mind, Con, but keep coming to the meetings. And you know what? I kept coming to the meetings, and I've never stopped going to the meetings. And that was my life, and it's still my life. And there is good stuff around all that in the years I've stayed sober. But AA is the first and most important thing in my life, that I stay sober and I go to AA. So, the last, say, 15 months has been really hard because he diagnosed me with cancer 15 months ago. I've got to have my spleen out, my gallbladder out, so they won't give me chemo until that operation's done, because that's blood connected with the blood. So I've been really ill. And I've just had 8 days now with a chronic, with my throat, So I'm catching anything going now. I'm catching it. But thank God I'm not catching a drink. You know what I mean? I'm catching all the infections that I go, and I'm just ill all the time. But I'll come right. I'll be okay. So this past week in this house on my own, I haven't been alone. I'm not alone. Absolutely not. I've got a God with me 24 hours a day. And I've got the phone. I use the phone. And I go online to meetings. And I'm so grateful for them. But there's not been a load of sharing from me on meetings because of how I am and whatever. But I'm just so glad to be here and participate in the meetings, because the meeting saved me life. AA saved me life, and it gave me a life, Mostly, I think there's low, but I think I'll just leave it there. The voice is starting to go and blah, blah, blah. But, thank you, love. Thanks for getting me at the last minute. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Julie. It was a pleasure to have you speak this evening. And you spoke of you don't know what sober drinking or social drinking is, and that's one thing I can identify with. They speak about social drinking. I'm gone out. My head has gone out the door because I never socially drank. I drank like a pig from day one. And the other thing you reminded me of there is, it's something I don't share very often, but in 1977, my mother, we used to get the Sunday World every Sunday. And we sat down to have dinner and she gave me the Sunday World, and the center pages of it, there was an article, the two center pages, there was an article and it said, "Do Irish men look at Irish women through the bottom of a pint glass?" That was the headline in the paper. And I read the whole thing, but down the right-hand corner, there was this 20 questions thing. And I got 7 of them right. And I said to my mother at 17, I said, "Ma'am," I said, "it says here if I have 3 or more right that I'm an alcoholic." I said, "I'm an apprentice alcoholic. I'm going to serve my time." And I didn't realize how true that was. But I'll never forget them headlines. I'll never forget that, and it took me a long time to come into these rooms, because from 1977 until 1989, I was looking for the answer. And I went in all the wrong places. And I'm so grateful today that, that I got it at last. And that I found myself in Alcoholics Anonymous. I found a version of Massey that I really like. I'm a nice guy. I'm a funny guy, I think. And I like to share smiles and laughs with people. And for me, that's what it's about. It's not about being miserable, And I'm blessed to have the people around me that I have, My favorite girl in the world is sitting on this meeting. And I see Mick there, the old dinosaur himself. I'm closer to him than I was to my own father, that's the strange thing. And I found this fellowship. I'm closer to people than I am members of this group than I am to members of my family. And for that, I'm grateful. My whole family is destroyed with addiction. Anyway, that's it from me. Mick?
Thank you, Mossy. Your closeness is that in age. That's all. No, Julie, that was fantastic. You shared about your emotions as a child, and that was me. I blame my family for everything. I grew up liar, cheat, and a thief as far back as I can remember. I stole, lied, and cheated. And I didn't know what was wrong with me because I was so insecure. And I heard an American man share once, and he said about the dis-ease of this disease, and I thought that was what I had as a child. And when I got sober and that, I came into the fellowship, and it took 5 months for me to put a glass down, but I kept coming back to meetings. See, I worked in a brewery, and booze was all around me. I fell in love with the stories I heard of these drunken draymen on horses and carts, and I loved it. Loved it. Because, as you said, it was the solution to my life, alcohol. And I came into this fellowship, and you showed me a different life. And I was dry drunk for a long time in this fellowship. I was still stealing, and I was justifying it. If I didn't steal this petrol, I couldn't go to as many meetings as I was going to. I had all these stuff, but gradually things didn't fit inside me anymore, and I had to get rid of them. And that's what's wonderful about this fellowship. It teaches us where our God is inside us. And he tells us the answers before we ask the question, but we have to struggle a little while. And I have a wonderful life today through this fellowship. Spiritually well, physically not. But I ain't care about the physical bit. That's up to other people's to sort out. AA sorts my spiritual life out. And I'm a very, very grateful alcoholic today. We have come to the end of the meeting, and Carol is going to do the promises. No, Katrina is. Katrina is.
There you go, Katrina.
Thanks, Mas. Thanks, Mick. Thanks for a beautiful meeting. Thanks for your timekeeping. Thanks for timekeeping, Kathleen. And also, Julie, thank you so much. Absolutely beautiful. I am Katrina. I'm still an alcoholic. The AA promises. If we're painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We're going to know new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them.
Thank you, Katrina. And thanks, Katrina, for doing the reading, and Carol for doing the reading. Thank you, Kathleen, for your timekeeping, Mick for your co-hosting with me. And of course, Julie, thank you for getting me out of bother again today. I'm blessed. There's someone always there to bail me out and make me look good. So that's it. And the yellow card. Who you see here?
What you hear here,
When you leave here.
let it stay here.
And all we have to do now is get Julie to lead us out with the Serenity Prayer. And thanks a million, Julie, for everything. You're a star.
Thanks, Mossy. Thank you, everyone, for being there. We're closing the meeting, please, with Serenity Prayer, using the word God as we do, or don't understand. God,
Grant
grant
us
us serenity,
things
We cannot change.
courage to change the things
We can.
and
wisdom
Wisdom.
to
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, everyone that spoke and didn't
See you
speak.
all tomorrow.